Now why WrestleMania moments are so important, if they come at the right time, it can quite literally turn people's careers around. On many occasions, wrestlers have competed on the grandest stage of them all and come out the other side feeling like true superstars have been born. The fact it happens in front of your eyes is just the icing on the cake. Usually when these things occur too, the real importance isn't realised till years after, as a performer uses this as a stepping stone to bigger things. They bought into the majesty of the pay-per-view and flew out the other side like a ball from a cannon. Whatever that means. The point being, if you smash it on the biggest stage, good things usually await. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 WWE stars who got over after huge performances at WrestleMania. Number 10, Edge at WrestleMania 22. So yeah, when Mania 22 rolled around, Edge was already an established star and also had been a WWE champion. I would say, however, that at this stage he didn't feel like a proper main eventer. Just someone who won the title at one point to see what would happen. It's not like he was bedded in with that scene. That's why when his match with Mick Foley rolled around, Edge decided to take things to a crazy level as he turned his attentions onto the hardcore legend. Together, they cut tremendous promos in building to this clash, and fans had truly bought in even before the bell rang. That always helps. Then they both went crazy, using chairs, 2x4s and barbed wire just to strike real pain into each other. This all escalated when Edge was side suplexed onto a pile of thumbtacks, and it completely exploded after the rated R superstar smashed Foley with a spear through the ropes and a table engulfed in fire. And yes, I said fire. It was so good and so intense it easily told everyone watching that Edge was a proper main eventer, and he was treated like one from here on out, which was the right decision. Number 9, Kane at WrestleMania 14. When Kane debuted in 1997, no one really knew how it was going to work out. It was a cool character, but after he clashed with The Undertaker, what was next was anyone's guess, something even Glenn Jacobs, the man behind the mask, said a few years ago. Not even he thought he'd still be the Big Red Machine in 2018. When we did get the first fight between the brothers though, it was just so cool. And seeing Taker overwhelmed by his sibling thanks to his strength and thirst for vengeance worked. He even used his own tombstone against him, and it took 3 of such a move to put Kane away. 3 tombstones. Think of that. In reality, however, Kane was a winner too, especially because from here he just went up and up. His tombstone to Pete Rose captured mainstream attention, his in-ring work was as strong as it ever had been, and fans were invested in the family saga. Kane secured his future with the company with this performance at WrestleMania 14, ensuring that he could have a 20-year plus run as the guy. That's ridiculous, and it all kinda started here. Number 8, Goldust at WrestleMania 12. Goldust the character is f***ing weird. I think anyone can debate that. When he first arrived on the scene though, the point of the gimmick was to create questions about his sexuality and push the limits of good taste. His odd fascination with on-screen WWE President Roddy Piper brought a match between the two, a Hollywood backdrop brawl, for WrestleMania 12. The smart booking here did come in the sense Goldust was allowed to demonstrate a toughness few would have expected beforehand. He took a tremendous ass-kicking from Piper, complete with some of the stiffest punches ever witnessed. Goldust basically enjoyed a beating that earned him some respect from the fans, mostly because up to this point, he had just licked his lips seductively. Well, he did more than that, but most of it was strange. It certainly helped his career no end and allowed his wrestling powers, or at least resistance, to shine through. Without this, Goldust would have probably still been alright, as the man behind the face paint was too good not to be, but this helped without a doubt. Number 7, John Cena at WrestleMania 22. When John Cena walked into WrestleMania 22 as champion, he was not the made man we know today. In fact, he had lacked that one definitive victory that every superstar needs to validate their reign. Beating JBL, that's not saying much now, is it? And yeah, the likes of Kurt Angle were also on that list, but the feud wasn't treated as the be-all and end-all, and as such, it just came across as another way to get a win for Cena. The champion needed something to define his future, and he got it in Chicago in front of one of the most hostile crowds ever. And who was his opponent that night? That's right, Triple H, who during this time was basically the standard bearer for the company. Cena needed to perform up to his level to not only put on a good main event, but show the people in the back he had long-lasting appeal. Cena found a way to do this, which of course would be his shtick for ages. He overcame the odds, and after kicking out of a pedigree and a sledgehammer shot to the face, trapped the game in the STF and forced him to tap out, a rare scene all of its own. While the negative reactions would continue in arenas across the country for the next decade, Cena's victory on that night solidified his status as the man in WWE. Without this, who knows in which direction Cena would have headed. It really did leave its mark. Number 6, Shane McMahon. In 1999 at WrestleMania 15, no one really knew what to make of Shane McMahon. He was an essential member of the corporation, but he hadn't yet wrestled a high-profile singles match. That changed here when he defended his European Championship against X-Pac, and what a weird contest that is. It over-delivered, however, and Shane's title defense would come to define him as a performer. The prodigal son rose to the occasion, bumping around the squared circle and getting what he deserved, but basically being a massive dick in the weeks prior. When the time came to get his offense in, that wasn't too bad either. He was the perfect villain, and the bout absolutely benefited from having him in it. He won following the betrayal of X-Pac by Triple H and celebrated as if he'd done it all of his own, and all of this gave those behind the scenes confidence that he should be featured in more highlight matches going forward. He's more or less carried this on too, with some duds along the way, but still, not too bad for Vince McMahon's son. Number 5, Macho Man Randy Savage. By WrestleMania 3, Macho Man Randy Savage was already a household name, but he needed that one big performance to truly put him over the top. That came on the 29th of March 1987 in front of maybe 93,173 fans inside the Pontiac Silverdome as he defended the IC Championship against Ricky Steamboat. Not only was this an instant classic that would go on to define the event for ages, but also a template into the wrestling we expect today. The pair cut a rapid pace and a flurry of offense counters and reversals kept the fans on the edge of their seat. Savage and Steamboat also told a wonderful story, and fans wanted to see the heel lose his title. When George Steele interfered on behalf of Steamboat, allowing the Dragon to score the roll-up victory, the audience erupted. While the new champion celebrated in the moment, the talk of the industry was Savage. He was so brilliant here, he moved himself up the ladder in the process, because at WrestleMania 4 he won the title, and at WrestleMania 5 he had one of the best main events against his former best friend Hulk Hogan. Did it all start at WrestleMania 3? The answer is probably yes. Number 4, Owen Hart. Prior to WrestleMania 10, Owen Hart was a solid mid-carder who was amazing in the ring. He needed something to stand out, and that came with the 1993 Survivor Series, where he was the only member of the Hart family eliminated during a match against Shawn Michaels and the Knights. He was irate, frustrated, and tired of living in the shadow of the Hitman. Even though at one point it seemed like they'd smoothed things over, Owen eventually betrayed Bret at the Royal Rumble, completing a heel turn that led to one of the greatest sibling rivalries in wrestling. Not only did the two kick things off at WrestleMania 10, but it was one of the most anticipated bouts on the card, and for 20 minutes, the brothers put on a clinic in scientific wrestling. Owen targeted the knee of his brother and worked it over for the majority of the bout, hoping to not only wear him down, but also hurt Bret's chances of capturing the WWE title later in the night against Yokozuna. The finish, too, was majestic. Clearly studying Bret's other matches, Owen knew what was coming from the Hitman and countered a victory roll into a pin of his own for a huge and surprising victory. The win catapulted Owen into the main event scene, and he was seen straight away as a genuine contender. Best of all, fans bought into him in that role. He would headline shows throughout the remainder of 1994 while always remaining an elite performer. Number 3, The Rock. Picture the scene. A beaten down Rock holding the IC Championship above his head as blood trickled from his mouth as fans started to realize they were seeing a star in the making. All this happened at WrestleMania 14. Earlier in the night, the Great One had coined, "If you smell what I'm cooking," and in that one promo, he allowed his natural charisma to shine, and the fans ate it up. Later on, when he did indeed raise his title while lying on a stretcher, he gave the world a visual representation of his climb. After failing miserably as Rocky Maivia, he completely turned things on their head by becoming The Rock, one of the best heels wrestling has ever seen. Nothing he did in the ring that night mattered. He had delivered such a compelling and captivating performance elsewhere, the audience had no choice but to sit up and take notice of the third-generation superstar. They did, and look where we are today. Borderline ridiculous. Number 2, Shawn Michaels. At WrestleMania 10, Shawn Michaels was a damn good mid-card hand. A two-time IC champ, he was one of the company's workhorses and a wrestler leaned heavily on to deliver in key situations. A late 1993 suspension sidelined him though, leaving the IC title vacant. Enter Razor Ramon, who won the belt and in the process laid the foundation for a rivalry between him and Michaels over who was the real champion. At the March 1994 pay-per-view, they would battle it out in a ladder match for the gold, and it showed everyone that Michaels was the real deal and then some. Stealing the show in many ways, there's a ton of iconic moments that hold up, such as the splash off the top of the ladder to the tremendous bumps he took around the squared circle. At times, it was like he'd been shot. Coming out of the event, it was clear HBK could be a main eventer. He had stood tall on the grandest stage and made it his own, delivering a performance that proved any doubters wrong. Did too, as this led to him winning 2 straight Royal Rumbles and competing in 2 WrestleMania main events. Number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin was so talented he would have been a star regardless, but looking at history shows us that a huge reason for this was WrestleMania 13's submission match against Bret Hart. Such was his potential, if WCW had realized what they had, maybe, just maybe, Ted Turner could have put Vince McMahon out of business. It's a question we'll never know the answer to. Instead, on one night, the Texas Rattlesnake started his journey to becoming a proper main event star and ignited the WWE product at the same time. As well as having a match of the year with the Hitman, Austin's performance as a defiant rebel, even though his body was racked with pain and refusing to quit, was perfect. That image of a bloodied Stone Cold too is one that every wrestling fan on the planet remembers. He became a babyface on this night, as we know, and never really looked back. By the end of the year, he was the biggest anti-hero in the business and on his way to many main events and a whole new level of stardom. Thanks WrestleMania 13, you're alright.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. Or don't. 50-50.